Good. We knocked out one movie. Two movies.
This is going to be a long video.
2.5. Are you recording again?
Hold on. Okay, recording again. Hold on a second. Let me get back in the thing. Get back in the thing. That's going to be all junk. It's fine. And go.
Zemo's plan doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. And I hate the fact that they took a very intriguing premise from the original Civil War comic, which was based solely on two opposing ideologies, which you could see both sides as being right depending on your frame of reference or your mentality.
I don't know what a lot of these people might not know. Why don't you tell them what the original Civil War premise was?
I'll give them a quick synopsis. So in the original Civil War comic, basically what happened was it was two teams of inexperienced heroes and an inexperienced villain, very young, who ended up causing a mishap that blew up a small town. Oddly enough, that town was Sandy Hook.
That's awkward.
Yeah, right, it was.
Moving on.
Anyway, so that happened, and then one of the parents of one of the children who were in that town comes up and basically spits in Tony's face and says, "What are you going to do about it?" And so Tony basically institutes a registration act, a vigilante or superhero registration act, where everybody basically works for S.H.I.E.L.D. or works for the government. Because in this, the S.H.I.E.L.D. was still an entity. It wasn't destroyed the way it was in the MCU. So basically, what happened was Tony wanted all of the superheroes to register with the government and give up their secret identities so that they could be controlled and they could be regulated, and there wouldn't be these calamities happening because people weren't trained. And Captain America and a large portion of other heroes thought, no, we shouldn't have to give up our autonomy. That very classic, like, free America mindset that people from his era would have had. And that dichotomy of mentalities is what caused the conflict in the comic, and it escalated from there. Now the movie kind of
some fucking guy.
The movie is just a guy who turns them against each other because he's mad about Sokovia.
In my opinion, Zemo should just not exist, and the movie still works. It works a lot better.
Don't get me wrong, like, Zemo's a good character in other things, but it really... Marvel has a very bad habit of using villains to cheapen real character development, because they don't want you to see the villains they don't want to cheapen and make the heroes seem like not heroic, when what you would just do in that scenario is just make them real people.
Wait, hold on. How does it make it seem... Wait, what are you saying?
I'm saying you can allow heroes to make mistakes and to have flaws and to have certain
you're saying Tony Stark would have seemed like he was making a mistake if they kept the original idea,
or vice versa, depending on how they framed it.
Tony Stark obviously seems flawed, though. I think the movie paints him as flawed for seeking revenge on someone who is mind controlled. That's my opinion of it. He's obviously emotional, it's his parents.
There was just a lot of just gripes that I had. I just felt like they cheapened a lot, and they were rushing through a plot, and these beats had to happen to get to the next part.
I'm wondering, because
I feel like it hurt the characters.
So my thing with Civil War is it seems like it's very scene-driven, which is one of my gripes with the Zack Snyder guy, where it seems like sometimes people focus on a certain scene in a certain way, needs to look good, and all these things need to happen, so they just frame the story like around it. And I think it should be the opposite. So I think like their main focus was just focus on the various gripes between the team members.
Civil War, it was just about getting to the fight.
Yeah.
And I felt like nothing developed organically.
Yeah,
and
really,
that was my biggest pet peeve about the movie, and that's why it hurt it so much to me, and why I didn't really care for it.
You could really just cut it down to the airplane scene in the last Tony versus Steve scene.
I didn't think you needed the airport scene.
Well, the studio wanted the airport scene, obviously. So, I mean, as the filmmaker, you gotta be like, all right, we'll give you the fucking airport scene. And
anyway, the end of the movie, this movie did have big stakes moving forward because it fractured the Avengers to the point where they were no longer a team. And some of them were on the run, some of them were doing their thing, but they were basically not the Avengers anymore.
At least that's realistic. I think it's very realistic for like.
I liked that in the sense that it actually had stakes moving forward.
Yeah.
There were certain parts that still frustrated me. Like, I know it sounds mean, but I felt like Rhodey should have died when he hit the ground.
Rhodey.
When he fell out of the sky.
Oh, Rhodey. Okay, yeah.
Felt like if you wanted to increase the stakes, him being paralyzed when you have robot legs.
Wait, hold on. Okay. Doesn't Iron Man fucking fall like that and not ever get hurt? I don't actually know, though. I'm pretty sure he does.
Anyway.
I don't think Rhodey should got hurt at all.
That was my biggest pet.
But they needed to make a mistake of, like...
It wasn't great.
Mistakes.
Alright, moving on. So the next was another introductory movie, was Doctor Strange. Now, in terms of effects, this might be the best one.
Oh yeah, it was pointed directly at me. It's like, here, Herrera.
Dear God.
Here's all the effects, man. You win. I win!
In terms of visuals and... Yeah, in terms of visuals, holy crap, this movie is incredible. In terms of special effects, wow. They nail a lot of the magical elements. That being said, a lot of the fights are still goddamn fist fights. This is a whole... he's the fucking Sorcerer Supreme... Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I liked this movie. I liked Benedict Cumberbatch. I thought he did great. I thought he was pretty much the no-brainer casting choice. I mean, it was easy.
I didn't even think about that. It's a kung fu movie.
It's a magic movie.
It's a typical kung fu film with like elements,
Irish white
elements of mystical.
Oh yeah, that's my another pet peeve. Same thing we said about Iron Man. Another thing we said, like Iron Man 3, where they had Ben Kingsley as the Mandarin. I understand that he wasn't actually the Mandarin, but at the time, we all thought he was the closest thing we were going to get to the Mandarin. But this is, again, the ancient one is supposed to be an old Chinese man. He's always been that way in the comics. He's one of the few examples of Asian characters in comics. And they cast Tilda Swinton.
She's a good actress.
I'm not saying she's not. I'm saying she doesn't fit the role at all.
They were trying to do a certain thing, and obviously it didn't work out. It was a
stupid move.
It came off as offensive, they made a mistake. But they learned their lesson, I think.
I don't think they'll do that again.
Because they would have learned a lesson from The Mandalorian, but because it wasn't technically him, I think they were able to get away with it. They didn't feel too bad. But this one, they legit just completely recast the gender and race character. The gender was fine. I mean, you can cast a male character and make them female.
Fuck! If you wanted to keep it...
That's cool, but...
If you wanted to gender bend it, you could have cast Michelle Yeoh from fucking Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. She would have been incredible.
I've just noticed in general, you tell me if I'm wrong here, it seems like the Hollywood thing is, if you go from male to female, that's fine. If you go from white to something else, that's fine. But you can't do the reverse, because then it just comes off as offensive. It maybe not necessarily is offensive, it just comes off that way.
All right, think about it.
Maybe just don't do it.
Look, think about it this way. Almost all superheroes and all characters in superhero comics throughout history until maybe the last 20 years.
Oh, white guys.
We're all white. And all dudes.
White guys, yeah.
White guys.
Very racist and sexist.
And
which sucks because now, like what, 80? I don't know how long comic books how old comics are. Yeah, like what, 90 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, 90 years old, and we're still stuck with this white male thing for these stories. It doesn't work because we live in a more diverse society right now.
Which is funny because originally these characters, original superheroes, were created by Jewish immigrants because they felt scared. And this was a way to make them feel empowered and put a lot of their ideals
That's really interesting. I didn't know
into superheroes, which basically were their saviors, protecting them, protecting the underprivileged, protecting minorities. That was the way Superman was originally written. That was the way Spider-Man was originally written. That was the way Batman was originally written. Wonder Woman. All of these powerful characters were meant to protect the unprotectable. And then somewhere along the line, 60s, 70s, 80s, it became a male power fantasy.
It probably sold better to be a male power fantasy. And also, comics became very sexualized, like in, I assume, the 90s.
90s, yeah.
Yeah, because that's when I kind of got into comic books, and it was wild, because I was like, hey, Superman, Batman, I go...
The 90s was when you had, like, the Liefeld, Todd McFarlane, like...
My first comic was, I went to the comic store. As a kid, I was like, slight deviation, I'm really sorry.
No, go for it.
But first comic, only real comic I ever got, not counting like the B style comics that my mom just found at a garage sale. Anyway, we went to the comic book guy. He's a typical comic book guy from like The Simpsons, and he's like, "Oh well, this comic is the newest thing. It'll make money and blah blah."
One ever.
And I was like, "Okay, I'll take whatever if it'll make money, cool." He's like, "What you want to do is you want to keep like a nice one and then read the other one." I'm like, "Sure, whatever." So then I do that, and it's this comic called Razor, and it's this like ultra like almost pornographic comic book that has to do with this like mostly naked girl
like
who's like cutting people.
Was it an Image comic?
And there's just yes, I'm pretty sure. And there's just blood and gore and nakedness. And I'm like, I guess this is what comic books are. No, it's not. It's not.
It's not what it's
specifically
supposed to be.
not what it was started
It was
from.
a very specific time period.
Yeah,
1991
like
to like 2002.
Comics got like tainted when they became really popular, and they just. I mean, it's fine. I'm sure they had fun making them, but yes, like he's saying,
there was an
where
influx,
comics came from. It's not really the way it was before.
There was an influx of very surface level looking at it, and people were like, "Oh, dark and gritty and violent. That's what people want," and they missed a lot of the nuances. And I feel like a lot of nuance. Anyway, back to Doctor Strange, which is what we were trying to talk about. This movie was basically Magic Iron Man. It was good. In terms of visuals, but everything else was literally just paint by numbers.
Hold on, you didn't talk about Benedict Cumberbatch. I think he did a
great.
really good job.
He did. He really did.
I thought Tilda Swinton did good. I know it's offensive that she's even in it, but
it was a poor choice to cast her. She did the best. She did a good job.
She was in emotional scenes. Like I didn't know that they casted a different gender and race, and I thought she was fantastic.
Like I said, I don't care about gender. That's whatever. That character could be a woman. The fact that it wasn't Asian really bothered me. And I feel like it really hurt the character.
So hold on. You're big on plot. What do you think of the plot of Doctor Strange?
I already said it's Iron Man with magic. Dude gets hurt, has to find a way to use his mind to overcome his physical limitations. So he learns magic.
You know what's funny is they're like.
But he learns magic really fast.
Oh, what's funny is
being a doctor makes you
wait. It's so funny. It's kind of ridiculous if you think about what actually happens in the movie. They basically say, okay, well, plot twist. This guy uses all of the magic he learned to basically, work his whatever was messed up. His legs. I can't